Pain is not optional. You cannot live a single human life without paying that toll. And that is because pain is the very tax for being alive. You do not get to experience breath and love and ambition and creation without also accepting loss and heartbreak and fatigue and failure and burnout. Life charges both ways. It isn't just positive and it isn't just negative. Now, the problem with that is that most people think pain is some sort of malfunction. They think that when they experience pain, something must have gone wrong. They'll ask, why was it me? Why now? Why does it have to hurt? Why did these things happen to only me? But if you shift your perspective and you think about it rationally, pain stops becoming this sort of cosmic and divine punishment and instead starts becoming a sign that you are physically still here. Pain is not an error. Instead, it is simply the proof of your membership and your existence. Now, the Stoics, Seneca, Marcus Aurelius, even more, even some like Zeno, they hammered this point along. And Marcus Aurelius wrote this in his Meditations, and it was, "Do not expect events to happen as you wish, but wish them to happen as they do." So, in other words, it really just means stop treating pain as if it's an unfair event. Instead, treat it as a part of the contract and a part of the journey that you're on. You didn't pay some sort of admission to a theme park. Instead, you paid an admission to exist, and existence demands discomfort to grow. Now, think of it in a form of taxes. I'll break it down simply. Nobody likes paying taxes. Of course not. You wish you could skip them, and you wish that they weren't a thing, or at least you wish that you didn't have to pay them. However, taxes are the very thing that fund the roads and the water and the infrastructure that you live on and use every single day. Now, in the same way, the pain funds the richness of being alive. What pain does is carve a depth into you, and it teaches you resilience, and it burns away illusions. And without pain, you would not grow. You'd simply be stagnant and you wouldn't move anywhere. All you do is stagnate in a shallow loop of cheap pleasures. And yet we choose to avoid pain every single time. We medicate it, we distract it, we drown it with noise. We try and get away from it at any chance possible. We treat pain as if it's some sort of intruder instead of a teacher. But I want you to know that every single time that you numb pain, you are not dodging the tax. Instead, all you're doing is compounding the interest and making the tax even bigger. The pain that you avoid today comes back tomorrow worse. It perpetuates upon itself. I want you to look at your own life now as an example. That heartbreak that you never actually processed and just avoided every time you had to think of it. It warped your ability to trust other people as a person. That failure that you never faced and instead walked around it as if it just didn't exist, it turned into a fear that stops you from trying ever again. And that grief that you bottle up leaks every single time everything happens. It will leak into anything. Sorry, I rambled there. Pain does not vanish when you ignore it. All it does is wait for its escape. It doesn't wait for you to confront it anymore. All it does is leave when you're not ready for it. Again, I'm rambling. But Friedrich Nietzsche had the idea of amour fati, which means the love of fate. Now, Friedrich Nietzsche believed that the strongest man is not the one who avoids the suffering, but instead the one who says, I accept all of it. Not just the joy and not just the happy moments in life and the triumphs, but also the betrayals and the losses and the bruises that come with those joys and triumphs. Because that is that full shape and circle of life. It is to reject the pain itself is to reject life as a whole. And the paradox with this concept is that the more you try to live pain-free, the weaker you actually become. Think about it for a moment. Like if I apply it to muscles only grow through resistance, and discipline only builds up when you are struggling. Compassion will only deepen when you actually suffer and you understand things, and pain is the very forge that grows. Without pain, all you are is a soft metal, and you're easily bent, easily broken, and brittle and fragile. Now, you might think that you are escaping pain by just chasing comfort, endless entertainment, watching Netflix, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, shallow relationships, and constant distractions, and porn addictions, and junk food. However, that path has its own tax, and that tax instead is numbness. It's not pain. It is emptiness, and it's regret, and it is comfort at the cost of growth. And comfort at the cost of growth is simply just a slower kind of death. So what is it that you do? You have to stop bargaining with pain itself. You have to stop saying, if I try hard enough, maybe I can live without the pain. No, what you have to do is accept the pain. Accept it as something that validates your existence. You have to embrace pain as a part of the deal, and you have to say that this hurts, but it means that I'm alive. It means that I care. It means that I risk something. That is why it hurts. You have to learn to differentiate between pointless suffering and purposeful pain, because pointless suffering is just what you create when you resist the actual realities, when you keep replaying those mistakes over and over in your head, and when you let fear dictate your days and stop you from trying. Purposeful pain instead is training, and it's sacrifice, and it's discipline, and it's heartbreak, and it's grief, and it's betrayal, and it's all these terrible things, and they do hurt, but they shape you, and they prove that you have lived through different things that are experiences. Now, the Buddhist texts call this the first noble truth. You have to understand that life is suffering. Now, people may misread that statement as some sort of pessimism or nihilism, but I want you to understand that it isn't. Instead, it is clarity, and it is saying that you have to stop being shocked that life hurts, because it will hurt. You have to accept the fact that it hurts, and you have to free yourself by finding the meaning within that pain. And maybe, just maybe, that is the real point of pain. Maybe it's the fact that pain is not just the tax for being alive. Instead, it is the very proof that life has weight and that you are living. And that you weren't just drifting through life just as a log in the ocean would, but instead that you were here and in the flesh, and that you were exposed, and that you were vulnerable. Because if nothing ever hurt, then absolutely nothing would ever matter. You cannot have growth without falling. You can't have joy without some sort of displeasure. So stop asking yourself for a pain-free life, and stop seeking for it. That is the wish of a child. That is the wish of someone with some blissful imagination who doesn't understand it. Instead, ask for the strength to carry it. Build towards the power to sustain the pain. Because every single time that you pay that tax, you are investing in your depth, and you are investing in your resilience, your humility, and yourself as a person. And when that final bill comes, when you reach the end of your life, you will realize that the entire time that price was worth it, and that toll road was such a great investment to go down.